Hello everyone, and welcome to a little podcast that I'm doing here talking about Ulthun. You may not be familiar with Ulthun, you may be very familiar with Ulthun. It's a DC Comics character that you may know better as Red Tornado, or maybe you thought you knew him. Got him! This whole video is essentially going to be a got him as I tell you about Ulthun and how, incredibly insane he is as a character. Ulthun is an air elemental, essentially a sentient tornado that was found on an alien planet and was originally a villain, the Tornado Tyrant, that battled against Adam Strange, a character I honestly don't care about. But he ended up later on traveling to Earth and battling off against the Justice League of America. Kind of, but not really. Essentially, Adam Strange whoops the Tornado Tyrant, but little does Adam Strange know, the Tornado Tyrant is actually pretty hard to whoop. So he ends up just following Adam Strange around. He sees him go on some adventures, and when he goes on an adventure with the Justice League of America, he ends up finding his way to Earth where he sees the Justice League. He essentially decides, I can't beat any of these dudes. Like, if Adam Strange could whoop me, I have no idea how I could whoop the Justice League of America. So he's like, good guys always seem to win, and I've always been a bad guy. But all I want to do is win. So if I want to actually win, I gotta be a good guy. I gotta get on some of this good guy shit, right? So Ulthun travels billions of light years away from Earth through space. This sentient air elemental tornado flies through outer space of its own volition. No spaceship, just does it. They call it an ultra power. And he goes to some far off edge of the universe. He has illusion casting powers. And you may be like, illusion casting powers? You know, illusions aren't that good. But no, my boy, they call it illusion casting, but I don't know why they call it that. Because it's just way fucking better. Like, he creates an exact replica of the Earth. Like a solid, tangible replica. Like, you can land on the planet, you can interact with the beings there. It's fully populated. It has all the features of our Earth. But there's one thing missing from his world, the Justice League. Now, they could have went another way with this and said he creates a world that has no heroes to stop him and then he just rules over it. But no, he's like, on this world, I will be the Justice League. And he turns into every member of the Justice League with all of their powers and weaknesses. So if you were to throw a rock of kryptonite at him while he's Superman, then he'll actually be injured as if he's the real Superman. And it works the same way for all of their powers and weaknesses. He has both of them, but it's illusion casting. Also, he has this power he calls multi-life that allows him to become multiple people. So when he's the Flash, he's also Batman, and he's also Green Lantern, and he's also every other member of the Justice League simultaneously. He splits his life into multiple beings. But this multi-life thing becomes actually a pretty big deal. As the Justice League, he's no longer the Tornado Tyrant, he's the Tornado Champion. But it's revealed that there's this phenomenon that's happened more than once in the Justice League, not the Justice League, but in DC Comics in general, where essentially you'll split and there'll be a good you and a bad you. And the bad you is an alternate personality that manifests itself as its own being that you then can kill using anti-energy. The fuck if I know. But Green Lantern is able to actually shoot it out of his ring. He can shoot anti-energy out of his ring, specifically to take down split evil personalities that come off of people. So while the Tornado Champion is I'm doing Justice League shit on my planet, he runs into a villain, and I don't know why he's not really upset by the appearance of this villain, because he's made this entire world, so he knows everything that's on the world, right? So I don't know why he wouldn't immediately be suspect of a new villain that he himself didn't create. But this new villain just dicks on the whole Justice League individually. He takes down each individual member. But each member is, just the Tornado Champion, just as all the individual members. So he brags to the Justice League see, evil can win. Good doesn't always have to win. And the Tornado Champion is well, you only beat us because you took us down one at a time. but what if we all like teamed up together? We would just whoop you. And the Tornado Tyrant, which is the monster, spoiler alert, the monster that randomly appears on the planet that he created, that's a replica of Earth, is just him. It's his like evil personality manifested. So he has like a bunch of illusion bullshit powers as well. But essentially, he says, fine, if you think you can whoop me, and he frees all the Justice League members, and he says, come at me, bruh. So they all come at him, and he whoops each and every one of their asses. Keep in mind, the Tornado Champion has all the powers of the Justice League. He can do everything the Justice League members are capable of doing. But, like, the Tornado Tyrant, who has the same bullshit tornado powers, is like, bullshit tornado powers are great. And he just whoops on him, just dicks on the whole Justice League. And the Tornado Champion is like, oh man, I honestly don't know what to do, but good guys always win, so I know what to do. So he like flies billions of light years all the way back to like normal Earth, like not illusion replica Earth. And he visits the Justice League. And like the Justice League of America are like, do Justice League shit, dun, 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 dun. And Tornado Tyrant is like, oh wait, sorry, because this Tornado Champion is the one that flies away. They're kind of the same person, but they're split, so I gotta make sure I'm not confusing you. So Tornado Champion is on Earth, and he's like, well, I saw the Tornado Tyrant, and I saw all his bullshit abilities, because, like, the Tornado Tyrant actually has a moment where he rants, and he describes how he beat the Justice League, and yada yada yada. So Tornado Champion's like, because he like told me all his bullshit and I got to see him do his bullshit, I can create an illusion that's an exact copy of him that has all his powers and is like just like a replica. It's an exact replica. And I think that's the crazy part about his illusion powers, is that he can make his illusions exact. He can see you and you can describe what you do, and then he goes, oh, well, I can do that. And then he just does, and just dicks on everybody. So he makes an exact copy of the Tornado Tyrant, and he has the Tornado Tyrant do the exact same thing that the Tornado Tyrant did on his fake world. But what's really interesting about it is that when the Tornado Champion pretends to be the Justice League on his world, he has all their powers and all their weaknesses, but it's still him making the decisions for each individual member. So you think that the real Justice League of America would make different decisions, but that's actually not what happens. The real Justice League does the exact same play-by-play all the way up until the end, where they're like, I bet you wouldn't beat our ass if we all whoop you at once. And the Tornado Tyrant goes, bet. Because Tornado Champion's just having him do the same thing that he did on his world. He's trying to figure out how to beat him. Now, what the Justice League of America does differently is that Green Lantern is able to deduce that this is like an evil personality that separated itself from another being. And he knows the secret to beating them is to hit them with anti-energy, which he can generate with his Green Lantern ring shit. And he just fires it at the fucking Tornado Tyrant, and Tornado Tyrant instantly dies. Instantly. That's it. Immediately erased, right? So the Tornado Champion is like, I now know how I can beat the Tornado Tyrant, but I can't make anti-energy. And he explains that, like, if he makes anti-energy, he'll die. And in my mind, I just get really confused, because I'm like, why would you die? You have all the powers of the people that you replicate. There's a scene where he's the Flash, and he runs, like, thousands of miles per hour. There's, like, a scene where he's Superman, and he, like, rips a robot's head in half, and shit like that. Like, he has all the Justice League's abilities, but he can't just be Green Lantern and just shoot the anti-energy like he saw Green Lantern do. Because all I learned from that was Green Lantern's fucking MVP, right? Like, he can just shoot anti-energy and just fucking kill evil separations of things. What a very specific use of a power. So the Tornado Champion's like, I gotta beat the Tornado Tyrant on my world, but I can't just make anti-energy to fuck him over. I gotta find, like, a new solution. So he uses his ultra powers and he flies billions of light years back to his planet where the tornado tyrant is like, evil can win. She just hitting buildings and shit. He's like, where are you, my good twin? Fucking evil, you gotta admit, evil's so great, it's evil. And then Tornado Champion shows up and he's like, okay, I can beat your ass this time. And Tornado Tyrant's like, bet. I'm gonna stand here and you're gonna do the same shit you did last time. I'm gonna just fucking annihilate you. So Tornado Tyrant's waiting for him to do the same shit he did before. But your boy, your boy Ulthun, Tornado Champion, he has all the Justice League of America members attack Tornado Tyrant at once, and Tornado Tyrant, like, just vanishes. Like, if you watch Dragon Ball Super, and you've seen Beerus, like, lift up his hand and go Hakai, and just erase someone from existence, the Justice League of America essentially Hakais the fucking Tornado Tyrant. He actually is erased from existence, and they explain it. They go like, Tornado Champion says, I can't make anti-energy, but you're made of matter. And antimatter, when it like collides with matter, just destroys it. It just is fucking gone. So he's like, I know that I can't make anti-energy, but I can teleport you to the antimatter universe and you die. But that requires a certain amount of energy to do. So he calculated the amount of energy needed to teleport something from our universe into the antimatter universe. And he then used the Justice League of America's powers, making sure to use the right amount of energy for each person, like for each person's superpower, so that when they all hit Tornado Tyrant at the same time, that exact amount of energy would hit him and send him to the antimatter universe and fucking kill him. Now, what's interesting about all this is that, for one thing that's really important is that the Tornado Tyrant is simply copying the abilities of the Justice League. He's simply doing what the Justice League of America is capable of doing. So what that means is that if the Justice League of America could calculate, like, how much energy it takes to teleport something into the antimatter universe, they could all hit it at the same time and just Hakai it and just send it to the antimatter universe, and it just is erased from existence. But it's really important to take into account that Ulthun is one fucking guy. Like, he turned into the Justice League, the entire Justice League of America at the time, but he doesn't have to. He's one being that has the power to, if he wanted to, hit you into the antimatter universe where you are erased. He hits you so hard, you go into the antimatter universe and you just die. Straight up. That's the thing that he can do. Now, you all may be wondering, what the fuck does Ulthun have to do with Red Tornado? And why are they related? So, Dr. T.O. Morrow, and you're like, well, not Dr. Tomorrow, because it's not his fucking name. He's the guy who made Amazo, and Amazo is this android who has the power to, like, copy anyone's powers that he, like, comes across. And Amazo is really hard to beat. Marvel has their own version of Amazo, but he's stupid, and we're not going to talk about him. So, Dr. T.O. Morrow was making an android, and the Tornado Champion decides that he's going to use that android as his body because he's on Earth for whatever reason. So he travels into Red Tornado's body, and once he goes into his body, he thinks he's just going to control it. But instead, he loses all his memories, so he doesn't remember that he's like a living thing, that he's an air elemental, and he thinks he's just an android. And it takes having to fight against the construct in order for him to, like, remember that he's a living being. And you're like, what the fuck is the construct? So the construct is really interesting to talk about. Essentially, the electromagnetism of the Earth. So, like, all the radio signals and all the resonant energy from, like, electrical plants and electronic devices, and even the like the fucking bioelectric field around living things. All of that culminates into like one field around the planet in DC. And that field gains sentience. It gains like emergent sentience, and it becomes the construct. And the construct can control any machine, and it can control any living thing. So it actually can control the entire planet, except Red Tornado. Red Tornado is the one exception that the construct like can't manipulate. So the construct, who's lost multiple times, is like, I gotta find a way to win. But I know that if Red Tornado is still like a threat, there's no way I can win. By the way that he was beat before is Wonder Woman made this machine. And the machine is constantly like scrambling the frequencies of the construct. Like, it's essentially like a jammer on construct. So as long as the machine is running properly, construct can't do anything. But a rat gets into the machine, I shit you not, and just like bites up all the wires and shit, so no one knows that the machine is broken. And the Justice League once a month travels down below the World Trade Center, because that's where they decided to put the machine under the World Trade Center. I don't fucking know why they did that. And they go under there, and Wonder Woman will look at the machine to see if it's like working properly. But because construct can just control your mind, when Wonder Woman like goes and looks at the machine, she just looks up at everyone and goes, "Oh, it's fine. Like, everything's fine." And then they all leave. And the construct is, I don't know why they wouldn't like set up a real security system, or have the machine like in plain sight in like the Hall of Justice, or whatever wherever their headquarters was at the time. It's like in the 1980s. So maybe they're on the Moon Watchtower. I don't know what base they have at the moment. But putting it under the World Trade Center and then only going there like once a month is really irresponsible, when it's a being that literally is like, I can control the world, bitch. And he only lost before because he couldn't control Red Tornado, and because Red Tornado was able to help them like get that machine to jam construct. So the machine's fried, and no one knows the machine's fried because he's able to control everyone who would check the machine, because Red Tornado's not responsible for checking the machine. So he makes the entire planet go against Red Tornado, and makes everyone be like, "Oh, fuck you, you're just an android." And also the construct can control the weather, because he just can control anything on Earth, except Red Tornado is really his power. So he causes all these freak storms, and then he makes the media and everyone else blame Red Tornado for the storms. And Red Tornado constantly is like, how am I fucking up? Like, what am I doing wrong? I'm trying everything in my power to help people, but everybody hates me. And eventually, Construct gets Red Tornado to snap, and Red Tornado's just like, fuck humanity, I'm gonna go out into the wilderness, and I'm just not gonna mess with anybody. So Red Tornado goes out into the wilderness, and he's just chilling, but his girlfriend is like, "Oh no, you're not leaving me, we gotta save the world." So she like travels out. Everyone else is enslaved. This is one of the dumb things about the book, is that like Construct enslaves everyone but two people. Tio Moro, the guy who made Red Tornado, and Red Tornado's girlfriend. And of course he doesn't enslave Red Tornado, because he can't. So the first thing that she does is she tries to find Red Tornado, but all she finds is that like, hey, here's the location of the guy who made him, and maybe he'll know more information. So she goes to him, and they're the only two people on the planet who haven't been taken over. Tio Moro is like, I've made this device where if we can somehow like get the construct in this device, he's just fucked. Like, there's nothing he can do. It's essentially more like a prison compared to Wonder Woman's device, which was like a jammer. And he's like, so we have to just like get him in this device, and then we're good. And he's like, but I haven't thought of a way to get him in the device yet. I'm still working on that. And he's like, also, Red Tornado's out here in the wilderness. I've been, like, tracking him. And then right as he reveals that, like, he hasn't found a solution to how to get the construct in the machine, the construct takes over Teomoro's mind, and he says, now you are actually the only person left that I'm not controlling other than Red Tornado. Get fucked, you've already lost. So she travels out into the wilderness and finds Red Tornado, and she tells him, yo, it's the construct. The construct is the one who's taken over everyone except for us, and there's no hope for anything except for you. You're literally the only person left who could possibly save the world. You, Red Tornado. And Red Tornado's like, fuck you, fuck humans, I'm out, I don't want to get involved, just stop messing with me. But Red Tornado ends up having like a hard epiphany, because she hits him with some logic. She's like, the very idea that you can ask yourself, am I human, shows that you are human. Like that, she says that essentially. And then Red Tornado goes, dang, that's just actually a fact. And then he regains all his memories of being Ulthun, but when he regains his memories of being Ulthun, he still is like a two-pronged thing. Like, it's still like Red Tornado is one being and Ulthun is another one. And Ulthun explains his origins and where he comes from and how he forgot who he was. But now that he remembers, they need to, like, combine into one being truly. And then he'll finally be able to, like, truly embrace his humanity. Because now he remembers that he has, like, a soul. And that he has emotions. And that he's a living thing that feels. And once he does, like, get all that back, he's like, I gotta stop Construct, I love everyone, I gotta save the fucking planet. So he travels out, and he's like, I gotta beat Construct, there's this thing that Teomoro built, and I need to trap Construct in that thing, I gotta find a way to beat him. The way he ends up actually beating Construct, by the way, is Construct takes over, like, a massive robot body, and he beats the shit out of Red Tornado and throws him into, like, the machine that was supposed to kill him. So he throws him in the Teomoro machine. Fun fact, beating the shit out of Red Tornado actually doesn't mean anything. Like, Superman dismantled Red Tornado once. And Red Tornado has self-reassembling circuitry that's internal and external. So even if, like, you hit Red Tornado and he doesn't lose a limb, but something inside of him breaks, it'll just fix itself. But it's just slow. He doesn't have, like, a really fast healing factor. It takes time. But even if you rip him limb from limb, his circuits will just rewire themselves back together and Red Tornado will be fine. He can just fix himself. And that's really fucking OP. So Red Tornado can just repair himself whenever. So when he's getting his ass beat by the Construct, you're not like, oh no, Red Tornado, he's gonna be Red Tornado, because you know that Red Tornado actually just can't die. You beat the shit out of him, and he always just fixes himself, even if it's just a really slow fix. So Red Tornado tricks the Construct into trying to take over his mind. He says, I have given up. You've taken over everyone but me. I might as well just go with it. And the Construct's like, that was fast. And then Red Tornado goes, well, I'm a logical being, so I don't need all the time to process my emotions because I don't have any. So Construct connects to, like, Red Tornado, and then Red Tornado goes, gotcha, bitch! He's like, because I'm, like, a robot-style thing, but I still have emotions, I can enter the, like, field that you are. And this is really confusing to talk about, but Construct, if you remember, is like an emergent sentience in this big field of, like, every electrical signal that's on the planet. So while Construct is like this emergent sentience of a field, the field itself is still like this alternate reality that only Construct can really perceive because he is this reality. So Red Tornado, even though Construct was trying to get into his mind, Red Tornado essentially gets into Construct's reality. So they're in this space where every electronic device or like electrical synapses in a brain is represented by a physical thing in the space. And Red Tornado starts fighting him for territory. He's like, This is impossible. You can't be in my world, Red Tornado. I rule this world. Only I can control things. Then Red Tornado is like, oh, you're mad that I'm like in your room and I'm throwing all your toys out the toy box? Oops. He's like, you can stop me from like taking over this power plant, but if you do, I'm gonna be over here like getting half of Australia and shit like back under my control. And essentially, Red Tornado goes, the best way to stop you is to just build a system like inside of your like reality field that keeps you from fucking up everything. So Red Tornado is like rearranging this reality in order to make it where Construct can no longer interface with it. So Construct is essentially locked out of using his own reality to mess with Earth. And Red Tornado essentially beats him that way. But Red Tornado is really powerful. Like, even though he doesn't go full Ulthun and make those, like, tangible illusions, even though he should be able to, as we established that Ulthun is indeed still in Red Tornado, and we already established that Ulthun had all these powers, like, Red Tornado essentially fought, like, a being that could control the entire planet, including the Justice League. You know what I mean? He fought that being, but he didn't, like, fly a billion light years across space or cast, like, solid illusions. But I think he should. I feel like Red Tornado got heavily nerfed, but he didn't get nerfed from, like, a plot convenience. Like, there's no plot that says Red Tornado suddenly can't use his abilities other than the one we already resolved, the one where Ulthun had lost his memories. Ulthun has all his memories back, so he should just do it. He should just make the illusions, and that would be fine. I think that would be really great, and I would love to see more of that. Now, what I just described to you were some adventures from the old Justice League of America comics, as well as the 1985 run of Red Tornado. He had his own mini-series of 4 issues. There was also a Red Tornado 2009 series that has 6 issues, but it never gets into Ulthun. It just reveals that Dr. Tio Moro also created several other androids, and he even created one before Red Tornado. So you get Red Torpedo, who is a water elemental inside of a robot body. You have Red Inferno, which is a child, and like the newest one, and he can manipulate fire. And then you have Red Volcano, who is an earth elemental, and of course he can manipulate like earth and magma and lava and shit like that. So that was just a really dark story, and interesting. Also, I should talk about, real quick before I get into the 2009 one, I should talk about how in the 1985 one, how Red Tornado changes as a character. So Red Tornado goes from not being sure of himself and having a very mild-mannered, like, normal identity, but having, like, a really confident super identity, to at the end of the story, having a really super confident normal identity and super identity, and he's now confident in his own humanity because he's restored his humanity. So essentially, the miniseries in 1985 is, how does Red Tornado adapt to just being like a part robot, part sentient thing, and get over his man versus machine conflict that he has. Like, that's the main thing about 1985 Red Tornado. 2009 Red Tornado is all about family and him finally coming to terms with the fact that he's a machine, but he's a special machine that's also alive. So essentially the way that they do that is by creating this family of other machines that are also like part machine, part elemental, and having him search out the individual members of his family, learn more about them, and come to terms with the idea that him having a human alternate identity is just fucking dumb. Like, he's like, my human alternate identity was me trying to, like, be closer to humanity, to, like, make myself one of them. But I'm sentient, I have emotions, but I need to recognize that I'm not human. I need to stop trying to emulate humans. I am my own race of thing, and I just need to be my race. So the big pull of the 2009 series is that it ends with him being like, I'm no longer like a double identity person. I recognize that I'm Red Tornado, and I'm perfectly fine with being Red Tornado, the sentient android. There are a lot of cool moments in the 2009 one. No Ulthun moment, sadly. He never, like, casts an illusion or, like, travels billions of light years through space, though they do end up in space multiple times in this. But there's some cool things going on with Red Inferno, the one that's like a little boy who is actually like an android who's been tricked into thinking that he was a person. So he, like, through and through believes that he is a human, but when it's revealed to him that he's an android, he freaks the fuck out. Essentially because his powers activate out of fear, and when he bursts into flames, it melts his skin off, and, like, he doesn't know what's happening. But Red Volcano kills Red Inferno's family in order to try and trick Red Inferno into working with him by saying, oh, Red Tornado and Red Torpedo are working for the military, and the military is hunting us down. So we're going to go and we're going to fuck over the military and Red Tornado and Red Torpedo to get revenge for your family being killed. But Red Volcano essentially just wants to be the strongest being on the planet, and he knows that Red Torpedo and Red Tornado are a threat to him. He already talked to Dr. Tio Morrow, who was in Bell Rev prison or whatever, and Tio Morrow said that while Red Volcano is the most powerful of all of them, Red Volcano hasn't had a lot of experience using his abilities, and Red Tornado has. So Red Tornado's experience outweighs Red Volcano's, like, sheer power. So he knew that he would need to have to manipulate Red Inferno in order to help him. But I think what I like about the 2009 story the most is how interesting and manipulative like some of the situations are. Like Red Inferno, his conflict is he suddenly has powers, he suddenly learns he's an android, his family is murdered, he doesn't know who to trust. For a while, he knows that Red Volcano is going to kill Red Tornado's family. Because like I said, Red Tornado has like an adopted daughter and he has a girlfriend or whatever. Maybe I didn't talk too hard about the adopted daughter, but he has an adopted daughter. So Red Volcano is going to kill Red Tornado's family, and he doesn't, and Red Inferno doesn't tell Red Tornado about this until like significantly into the adventure. He's like, oh, and by the way, your family's gonna get fucked. And Red Tornado goes, what do you mean? And he like flies off. But Red Inferno also flies off, and he saves Red Tornado's daughter. But he doesn't save her with the idea of returning her to Red Tornado. He saves her, and he's like trying to run away with her. Like, he goes back to their school because she's younger than him, but occasionally she'll visit his school for like music classes on like Wednesdays, and there's a little scene in the comic where they talk about it. But he goes back to where he first had like his first freak out, which was in his swimming class. So they're at this big pool in his high school, and he's essentially telling her like, hey, your family's probably dead, which sounds really morbid for you to say to a small child, but you gotta understand, just that same day, right, Red Inferno's family was killed by fucking Red Volcano, and Red Volcano is the one that was sent to kill her family. So Red Inferno is essentially just stating what he believes to be true based on his own experience. And she's like, why did you bring me here? And he says, so that we can like get the fuck out. He's like, we shouldn't hold out for your family. I don't think your family made it. Like, but together we should be able to like do something. We should be able to pull through. So her mom ends up showing up because Red Tornado was actually able to save them, but they freaked the fuck out because they couldn't find their daughter. So they realize that Red Inferno took her, and they find them at the pool where Red Inferno had first freaked out. And she gets on to Red Inferno like, what, do you think you're a big man trying to like scare a child? And Red Inferno's like, fuck you. Like, you actually don't understand who I am and like what I'm capable of and what I've been through today. You know what I mean? And Red Torpedo, her character is interesting because she was the first android that was created by Dr. Tio Moro. And her thing was she was made to steal money and to steal weapons. That was her whole thing. But because she had sentience, she rebelled against Tio Moro, and Tio Moro was like, nah, 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 I'm gonna fix this shit. She's claustrophobic, so he locks her in like a torpedo chamber, like where you hold torpedoes before you fire them, in a ship that had like sunk underwater after the events of Pearl Harbor. And due to her claustrophobia, she's too scared to actually do anything. And Red Tornado has to save her. But what's interesting is that she didn't rebel against Tio Moro necessarily because she's like a good person. She rebelled because it was more like a father-daughter relationship, and she's just like in her edgy stage. So like out of edginess, she's like, I'm not gonna do it, Dad. I don't want to do it, Dad. And she gets locked up. But you can tell that she's been hardened and matured by her time in the torpedo pod. She still doesn't just want to like kill people and steal. Like, she wants to do more with her life, but she's gotten past her edgy stage, so she's really matured. But she also doesn't necessarily want to be like a superhero. She just wants to experience life. She spent so much of her life stealing and getting weapons from murderers that she would rather just explore the world and like see what there is out there for her to experience. So she's going on her own journey. And then Red Inferno, at the end of the story, Red Tornado's daughter is like, his parents were killed. Can we please like adopt Red Inferno? And he could be like my brother and he could have a family. And Red Inferno goes, fuck you and your family. Like, I just learned I was an android. When I wanted to take you in, I didn't want to take you in because like I want to be a part of your family. It was more like I understood where you were coming from. I understood from my own experience today that you were screwed over in the same way that I was screwed over. And I felt like it was best for us to be together. But that didn't actually happen. Like, you didn't actually get screwed over, so that doesn't matter. I no longer have like any connection to you. I don't want to have a connection to your dad. I don't want to be an android. I don't want my family to be dead, but they are. And I'm not going to take this bullshit like family I never wanted and just act like everything's okay. Everything's not okay. Maybe Red Volcano has the right idea. Maybe humans are just bullshit. I don't know, but I need time to like figure things out. And Red Inferno just leaves. Like, that's his arc. And I was like, oh fuck, that's so great actually. I really like that he's like legitimately like, I don't know which way I want to go, so I'm very undecided. And then Red Torpedo's whole thing is like, I'm going to be neutral. I'm not going to be a bad guy anymore, but I'm not trying to be a good guy. And then one of the weaker storylines is Red Volcano, because Red Volcano essentially just says, I'm powerful as fuck, so I should just be a bad guy. And because I'm so powerful, I should be respected and I should be the one who controls everything. That's why he tried to like take down the world's militaries, is because he's like, I am the strongest of the androids, so I should be the strongest on the planet. Essentially was his like goal. So I really liked that. That was a really cool story for Red Tornado. But I don't know. I want whoever writes the next Red Tornado story to really focus on that Ulthun. Like, bring back his illusion stuff that he can do. Bring back the fact that Red Tornado isn't just a guy who has wind powers. He can actually just straight up manipulate reality by creating tangible illusions, mimicking the powers of the members of the Justice League, creating exact replicas of things simply by understanding them. Like, Red Tornado should be significantly more powerful. And don't you dare tell me that you can't write a good Red Tornado story with him being fully overpowered, because I will fight you on that. Sentry is a Marvel character, And Sentry's main antagonist in his comics is just like evil Sentry. And by evil Sentry, I mean he has like an alternate personality that comes out that does essentially an equal amount of evil to whatever amount of good Sentry would do. So he nerfs Sentry by essentially if Sentry was to feed the entire planet and there was no hunger, then like the evil Sentry would show up and he would just like destroy all the food. Like any problem that Sentry would solve, Sentry's evil personality would show up and he would just be like, "No, you didn't actually solve anything." Captain Atom is a DC character who essentially is just incredibly godlike. Captain Atom is always looked down as like, oh, he's just like a dumb metal Superman. No, no, no. But no, Captain Atom is the inspiration for Dr. Manhattan. Like, Captain Atom is legitimately a threat. He can do things like travel through time, make your dreams a reality without trying. He can manifest whatever he wants, essentially. He can manipulate reality itself by manipulating how molecules are arranged. Very similar to Firestorm, but without limit. Because Firestorm can only manipulate inorganic things, I think was his whole thing. Like, he couldn't do it to people, if I'm remembering Firestorm's limits correctly. Where Captain Atom can manipulate the molecules in anything to essentially, like, make and do anything. Captain Atom can even make clones of himself. He can communicate through thought alone. Like I said, he's traveled through time. And you know what Captain Atom villains are? They're like other beings that have the same powers as Captain Atom. Or Captain Atom fights himself from the future. You know, like stuff like that. And Ulthun, essentially his original story was like, there's a good side of me and there's a bad side of me and they're fighting and they have their own ideologies. Like, going back that far, Ulthun might be one of the first examples of a godlike character where the writer is like, this character is so powerful that the only threat I could imagine that this through-light character could face off against is itself. Like, it has to just fight evil it. It's the only solution to, like, my ridden corner that I have. But I love characters like that. I've now read every run of Red Tornado. I've already read, like, the Sentry runs, and Captain Atom. I don't like old Captain Atom, so I read his New 52 run, and then I read his latest, like, Rebirth miniseries. But I'd love to see more characters like this. I'd love to see Red Tornado get back to his roots and do more Ulthun stuff. What do you guys think? Make sure to post in the comment section below. If you like this video, make sure to like this video. Make sure to like this video, favorite, comment, subscribe, and ding ding ding, ring that bell so you're notified whenever we do these videos. And thank you all once again for watching. This is your host, your friend, your boy, Jeff Black, the one and only, logging out. Peace.